Minecraft's 1.17 update was probably a bit disappointing to some people, and that's mainly because it was split into two parts, with 1.18 coming out later this year with the rest of the features. But a lot of people overlook just how big 1.17 might be, and in fact there's already almost 50 new blocks in 1.17, with even more coming in the next update. So in this video, I'm going to be ranking all of those blocks, seeing which one is the worst, which one's the best, and which is all of them in between. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, definitely consider liking it and subscribing. It helps out a ton. And without further ado, let's get on to the rest of the video. First up, at number 49 on our list, we have the small drip leaf. I'm putting this guy way at the bottom because I simply cannot find a good use for this block that other blocks don't already cover. The main reason why I'm putting it so far down is because you can't really place it on anything. You've got clay that you can place it on, which looks ugly. You've got moss, which actually looks okay. And then you've got water, which I think is the best option of the three, because I don't really like this stem at the bottom. But even here, there's other blocks that you could use, such as lily pads or the bigger drip leaf, that I would think would look a lot better. Next on our list is actually 5 different blocks. We've got, in order, at number 48, Deepslate Lapis, number 47, Deepslate Redstone, number 46, Deepslate Emerald, number 45, Deepslate Diamond, and number 44, Deepslate Gold. And I'm just now realizing, why did I get rid of those? I really wanted to rank these blocks higher because I think there are some very good uses for them. They're just so niche and you would barely ever use them at all. I think I had to rank them this low. I would say these 4 are probably in around equal spots. I put diamond at the top just because, you know, diamond texture just looks good, just because it's diamond. And then gold I think is slightly higher than the rest. At number 43, we have all the different stages of amethyst clusters. And just like the ores, these blocks can be good, but they're just not really used in that many scenarios. I would say they make a good lighting source inside of caves because these do actually give off a little bit of light, but not really enough to be that good of a light source. But even if they had a really strong light level, they don't really compare it to other cave decoration blocks, which we'll get to later on in this video. I think the main reason why is just they're too bright, too colorful, and it really doesn't go well with the mood in some types of caves. It works well in a few types of caves, but depending on what mood you want to go for, it doesn't always work. Number 42 on our list might be a bit controversial, but it's going to the Chiseled Deepslate. Now, I don't think I'm alone on this, but I just do not like the texture of this block at all. For some reason, it looks blurry to me, and I don't really get what it's supposed to be. I would always just choose the polished Deepslate over this. I don't even see any scenario where I would want to use this. The only reason I'm ranking it higher than those other blocks is simply because if the other forms of Deepslate didn't exist, this would still be a nice color, a nice addition, and I think if you use it properly, it can potentially look good, but overall I'm just thinking that this is not a very good choice to use in terms of Deepslate usage. Number 41, ranking slightly higher than the small counterpart, we have the big drip leaf. And I'm ranking it higher because, first of all, they make great parkour blocks, but that's not the reason I'm ranking these. I'm ranking them entirely based off of usage in builds. But I think also, build-wise, this block looks a lot nicer than the small drip leaf. It has a lot more uses. For example, you can put it basically anywhere, even underwater. It makes a great underwater lily pad, and even if you put it above ground, it makes a nice optional lily pad texture, just different from the regular lily pad. And you could even connect them up kind of like this. And once this one comes back up, you can see this connects almost perfectly. But I think it also shares the same issues with the small drip leaf, that it's kind of niche, you probably wouldn't use it in a lot of scenarios, and you would generally want to rather use other plant life instead of this. I really wanted to rank this one higher, but number 40 on our list has to go to the amethyst block. It does make a really cool sound. But besides that, this block is really, it's really bright. It really catches your attention. And not that that's a bad thing, but you really gotta use this sparingly in your builds, otherwise it does not work well. And we're actually gonna go underneath this weird structure that I made to put number 39 on our list, which is the hanging roots. And I've actually seen these used for some pretty cool decorations underneath like windowsills to make them look a little bit old and dusty kinda. So I think these are actually a pretty nice block. I would definitely like to see more blocks in the future that are kind of like you place them upside down on things, because we've never seen this before and I like the idea of that. Oh wait, how could I forget? The Weeping Vines do the same thing as these, actually, and there are a few other blocks in 1.17 that do this that we'll get to. But I ranked the hanging roots the lowest out of these upside down hanging blocks because it's really the same as the other ones low on this list. Like, there's not that many scenarios where you would want to use this over some of the other options that you have. And it doesn't help that you can only hang it down one block, whereas most of these other ones you can keep it going down, and it kind of gives it a nice little effect of creeping down like that. But next up at number 38 and 37 on our list, we have the raw copper and raw gold. And these are kind of interchangeable. I would say they're around the same spot, similar to the other like deep slate ores that we covered earlier. Similarly to the amethyst, I just think that this color, while it could be a nice addition in some cases, there's not that many scenarios where you would want to use it, and especially with the copper, with its kind of orange and green. I would say it blends decently well with these other orange blocks, but there's a lot of other options that do it better, especially with these green particles coming out. I don't think that this is the best option for that, but I still do think it works pretty nicely with this. But there is one ore block that we're missing. That's the raw iron, which we'll get to later on in the video. But speaking of iron, our next two on the list are going to be more deep slate ores, the deep slate iron and the deep slate copper. And I'm actually ranking these quite a bit higher than the other ones that we've covered so far, because these ones have a lot more like subdued colors. They're a little bit nicer on the eyes, and they would blend in a lot nicer with builds, make them look really nice, especially from far away. I would say iron is probably a little bit higher than copper, simply because this color is a little bit nicer, I would say. But yeah, like those two blocks, I would say these ones are pretty much in the same spot. For number 34, it's going to be the Spore Blossom. I was initially kind of on the fence about this block. I really didn't like the sort of non-square shape that it has, but over time, I've really grown to like it quite a bit. It's a pretty nice thing to have just scattered occasionally around builds, but the real reason I like it so much is because of these particles that it summons. Because this is really the first block that we've ever had that has made particles like this. The closest thing we've had has probably been like the campfire, which creates smoke particles. But I think we need more of these like alive looking blocks that sort of add life to your builds. I would say more blocks that add particles kind of like this, and maybe like different colored particles, because the green ones don't always work for everything. I think the green ones look really nice in sort of lush builds. But yeah, looks wise, it isn't the greatest, which is why it's not going higher up on the list. And wow, you guys have been waiting so long for this one. Number 33 is the raw iron block, or as I like to call it, the bean block. And I'm ranking this one a little bit higher than the others, simply because I like the color a lot more. And I think this looks very good. This can work for a lot of different things, actually. You can probably use it for like paths, similar to what I'm doing right now. Also, yeah, generally with those other ones, the color was a lot brighter. It didn't really work with a whole lot, but with this, I feel like it's a lot more subdued of a color, and it works with a lot more stuff. At number 32 on our list, we're gonna do another deep slate form, and that is the cracked deep slate tiles, because simply put, they look pretty much exactly the same as the regular deep slate tiles. So I find that there is really no need to ever use these ones, just use the regular ones. Even if they do look a little bit different, I can kind of tell a little bit of a difference. You don't really want to use the cracked form with the tiles because these are generally used for a lot more like modern or not rundown builds. The tiles look a lot more like neater and more organized. So I think, yeah, you're probably not going to be using these that often, if at all. But I'm still putting them as high as I did, simply because they're Deepslate, and if the regular Deepslate tile version didn't exist, you know I would be using these because they still look amazing. We're only at number 30 on our list, and I'm already struggling to come up with bad things to say about these blocks. But next up, we have the glowberries, which, honestly, this is just vines but better, in my opinion. They look so much cooler hanging down, and they kind of spread out a little bit more than the vines, which just kind of hang onto a block. And I especially like the brown in them, because sometimes if you have too much foliage, the green just kind of gets a little overpowering. And I just think that brown just looks so nice. And especially, you can actually get those glowberries on there if you bone meal it. And that can also be used as a light source, which is very cool. I'm sorry, that last one was actually number 31 on the list. I am sorry. But for the actual number 30, we've got the glow lichen. And I know what you might be thinking. This looks super ugly. And you might be right. Yeah, this does look kind of ugly. But if we put it on some gray blocks like cobblestone or andesite or regular stone, it blends in almost perfectly with these blocks. And it actually creates a super nice, almost cracked-like texture on them. So these can not only be used to texture up your stone-made structures, but they can also be used for a light source. Because a lot of times, you kind of want to hide your light sources. You don't want them to be that visible because there's not much options that work. So you can easily do that just by using this glow lichen on the stone textures. Now, number 29 might be another controversial one, but it's gonna have to go to the candles. And I really don't want to rank them this low, similar to the amethyst block, but I just use lanterns. There's no real benefit for me to use candles. And I do want to say that these are being ranked in terms of 1.17 usage, not 1.18 usage. And I want to say that I think these blocks are going to become a lot better to use once 1.18 comes out. But the main reason I say that they're not that useful right now is because you need to have 4 of them in order for them to have like a good enough light source. So if we go inside of a cave here, you can see, like, if I light one candle, that barely gives off any light at all, and that's not going to stop any mobs from spawning. So if you need to light up a build with this, you kind of have to go for the 4, and maybe the 3 works sometimes, but it barely protects anything at all. But I'm saying that these are going to get a lot nicer to use in 1.18 because they're changing the spawning mechanics, where mobs will only spawn at a light level of 0. So with these candles, you could pretty easily create some very moody rooms. So I think if I were ranking this based off of 1.18, these would be a lot higher. But for now, I gotta put them this low on the list. For number 28, we've got Tough. And to be honest, I don't really have anything to say about this block. It's another gray stone texture. What's not to like about it? Number 27 is Rooted Dirt. Something you may not know is sometimes people actually like to use dirt in their builds, kind of mixed in, usually with like granite and bricks, because it kind of goes well and it makes the building that they're using this with look a lot like dirtier. This rooted dirt just goes with this even better because it's kind of got that pinkish hue. So if you want to experiment with this actually goes really well. I actually covered this in a video a few months back, right when 1.17 came out, where I basically was going over some build hacks that you can do with the new update. And this was one of them that I included, that you can use this rooted dirt like this. So I would say it's a very new and unique block, and it has quite a few uses, which is why it's going this high up on the list. For number 26 on our list, we have Deepslate. And you might be wondering why I didn't rank this higher. And similar to the other low-ranking Deepslates, it's simply because there's just other options that do this better. I think it's really weird how the Deepslate kind of turns depending on where you face it. And I like that it has different textures, but I don't really like how it turns. It makes it really hard to use. And I especially don't like this sideways one. That just looks really ugly. But I like this texture, and I like this texture. So that's why it's going this high up. I still would always prefer to use the cobbled form of Deepslate over this one. Next up, we actually have another Deepslate form, and it is the cracked Deepslate bricks. And I'm putting these ahead of the Deepslate tiles because, first of all, you see cracked bricks a lot more because these would generally be used in more castle-like scenarios where it's more medieval, more run down. So I think these bricks have a pretty decent use. And the other reason is because you can actually tell the difference on these ones. But to be honest, I still don't see myself using these that much. So I'm not going to put them around where most of the other Deepslate stuff is going. But at number 24, we have one more Deepslate one, and you've all been waiting for it. It's the Deepslate coal ore. And this just looks super amazing for a Deepslate ore. The coal just blends in so nicely with the Deepslate, and this is by far the best ore building block we have ever gotten. But of course it still has its few flaws. It's not a perfect block. You can't just spam it everywhere. That looks ugly. So you have to use it in moderation. But this makes a really nice addition to a lot of Deepslate related builds. At number 23, we have a block that is very similar to Deepslate, but it's actually basalt. Smooth basalt to be exact. And in my opinion, this is easily the best form of basalt. The other forms of Deepslate don't really have a ton of uses besides being pillar blocks, and they make great pillar blocks, but they don't have a whole lot going for them other than that. Well, meanwhile, these can be used for so much more. They blend great with all of the other forms of Deepslate, and just add another option when you're dealing with this dark gray color. Number 22, and one of the best new cave decorations in my opinion, is the pointed dripstone. This is the first time we've ever seen a block that behaves kind of like this, and I really like how it looks. I know a lot of people were initially concerned about it not being like a square texture, but I personally think it looks really nice like this, and it just adds so much extraness to a cave. Like you can pretty much use it anywhere, and it just works. Like that, it just makes it look more like a cave. It makes it look nicer. As you can tell, things are starting to get pretty hard to rank. They're getting to be pretty good blocks. There are a lot of good blocks in this update. But we're gonna go ahead and get a bunch out of the way here and rank all of the copper blocks next. Number 21 through number 14 are all the different forms of copper. And I think these blocks work amazing as intended in roofs, but they also have so much more than just that. And while these are in very similar spots, the order that I'm going with is these two are in around the same spot, and I actually like these orange ones a little bit better because the bluish tint was generally covered by prismarine. I mean, these aren't adding a whole lot new. These, on the other hand, these add a whole lot new. But overall, I think these are all very amazing blocks, and I'm going to be using them a ton. At number 13.5, because it was in the redstone tab and I forgot about it until now, is the lightning rod. And although I forgot about it until now, I actually do want to rank it this high because it is such an amazing decoration. Like, I don't know if you remember, but I think the hype around these chain blocks were pretty good when they were first introduced. I think the lightning rod is just as good as the chain, if not even better. Because just like the chain, it can be angled in every direction. And you can use this to create some pretty cool looking decorations. Like this pillar like this, and you can also do them facing in to each other like this. Of course, you can also just have them for their intended purpose as a lightning rod, and then you can even, this is my favorite use for them, if I can get it right, you can go and flip them upside down like this, and that creates a really cool looking spike. These also go really well with other blocks too. You can put the fence right on there, and it goes perfectly into it. And then on this side, the chain goes perfectly into it. Also, the iron bars do as well, and so do the stained glasses. But overall, yeah, this is a very nice block, and I'm kind of mad at myself for forgetting about it. But for the actual number 13 and number 12, we have the Azalea and flowering azalea. And in my opinion, these are probably the best plant decoration that we've ever gotten. The best small plant decoration, because they just look so good. I mean, what else do I have to say? And I think the flowering one is even better, just to get a little bit of color in there. But these just work so well. You can even put them into the ground to texture the ground up, like this. You can make little flower piles on the ground. I mean, what's not to like about these? I think number 11 is going to be the first one that's a bit controversial in terms of I ranked it too high, but it's going to be going to the dripstone block. Because, I mean, while this block may not seem that good at first, the color is just, oof. The color of this block is so good. Because if you look at, like, rocks in real life, typically they're not gray. Typically they're more of, like, a brownish color, and that's more replicated in these blocks here. So I think you can make a lot more realistic rock structures using these, and you can also use them in turn with the pointed dripstone. And these just add even more to these. I've also found that these blocks blend pretty well with granite and also light gray terracotta, depending on if you want to go more warm or similar to gray stone like texture. I especially like this light gray terracotta because it goes almost perfectly. But we are now in the top 10 on our list. The final 10 blocks. Have you figured out what they are yet? Because I don't even remember myself. Just kidding, I did remember. Number 10 is tinted glass. Not just because it blocks out light, but also because this is just a better glass texture in my opinion. I mean, depending on what you want your window to look like, this tinted glass can be a really, really good option. I mean, at this point, you kind of gotta welcome a new type of glass with open arms because we don't really get them too often. I mean, we just have the glass and then the stained glass, and if you really want to go that far, we have ice, but then it melts, so you kind of can't use ice that well. So, more glass gets to be in top 10. Number 9 is for all the diorite haters out there. Calcite, or as some people like to call it, diorite but better. And to be honest, I kind of see where they're going because diorite is a bit heavy on the eyes since it's got such a wide variety of colors on it between white and like the dark gray that it also has. This is a lot cleaner of an option. And of course, I am not a diorite hater. I actually like to use diorite. So I still like using diorite in scenarios, but this is just an amazing block to use. Number 8 on our list is going to go to the moss carpet. And to be honest, I'm starting to think I should rank this one higher because it's just so good. Like, it's better than any other carpet. The main thing I want to say about this block is that you can hide light sources under it. That alone is just such a huge deal. It already jumps this block up, way up into the top 10 in my opinion. But the fact that it also goes so well with this grass, you can pretty much just spam it and it looks good. It's just so nice to add a little bit of extra spice to your landscaping. It just always works. It doesn't ever not work unless if you're using like sand to landscape. Actually, I'm gonna try something. Even with sand, it looks pretty good. 7 through 4 on our list are all gonna be more variants of Deepslate, and we're gonna cover the rest right here. At number 7, we've got cobbled Deepslate. Number 6, Deepslate tiles. Number 5, polished Deepslate. And number 4, Deepslate bricks. That is the order that I've gone with for these, and they're pretty similar in terms of ranking, but these are just so good. I keep saying that about like all the other top 10s, but these are just so good. Like in 1.16, we thought Blackstone was good, and then these came out, and these are kind of just Blackstone, but better. I've actually heard some people say they don't like the polished Deepslate as much, and of course, you know, similar to the other polished blocks, you can't spam it, but it just works so well as an accent block, I had to rank it higher than these two. But, of course, it still doesn't rank higher than the Deepslate bricks. These are the best, in my opinion. So it all comes down to this, the top 3. Which block is going to come out on top. And for number 3, I have chosen the azalea leaves. And number 2 is the flowering azalea leaves. And I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that I think these are the new best leaves in the game. By quite a long shot, actually. First of all, the flowered ones, we have never seen any leaf even close to this. The closest we've had was jungle leaves with like little green circles coming out of them. But this is just such a nice addition, these flowers coming out. And the other nice thing about the Azalea leaves, at least to me, is that they don't change color depending on what biome you're in. So you can build with them in the ugliest grass colored of biomes, the swamps, the mesas. They'll keep their nice green color. And as someone who's been building a lot in a mesa biome recently, these blocks have been so useful. But they aren't quite as useful as the number one on our list, which you might be able to see it already. It's the moss block. I couldn't even not rank this one number one. It is just such a good block, such a game changer in terms of terraforming and creating grass-like structures. It doesn't change colors depending on what biome you're in. You can use it to cover this ugly dirt on the sides of grass. You can use them with basically all of the other lush blocks in this update, and they work almost perfectly. Of course, they share the same texture as the moss carpet too, so they work even better with this. And you can even terraform super easily by just spreading it with bone meal, and you get all of these cool new blocks. So yeah, the moss block is going in number one on my list. And with that, that's going to just about wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed the list. And if you had any opinions on it, make sure to let me know down in the comments. I'll definitely be reading those, checking those out, and seeing what you guys thought should be the best block and what should be the worst block. Of course, I should have stated this at the beginning of the video, but this is all my own opinion, and you are free to disagree with it. I'm just stating what I think is my favorite. And one more thing real quickly before I go. If this video hits 20 likes, I will do another video where I make a tier list of every single block. Not just 1.17. Every block in the entire game. So hit that like button if you haven't already, if you want to see that video. And other than that, yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.